Hello. It has been a massive 49ers day, a massive 24 hours or so of 49ers news, culminated by the release of the 2023 NFL schedule. That's what I've got up on The Athletic right now. The 49ers 2023 schedule. We can begin making travel plans, can't we? Heavy travel, early starts add a challenge. So by that, I mean the 49ers are traveling something like 30,000 miles this year, second to only the Seattle Seahawks, who are at 31,600 miles. It makes sense because Seattle's all the way up there in the Pacific Northwest. 49ers obviously way out on the West Coast. So it's a heavy, heavy travel schedule as far as just having to cross the whole country a lot of times. 4 10 a.m. starts for the 49ers, 5 East Coast games in the Eastern time zone, but 4 early body clock starts, which have been demonstrated to be disadvantageous to West Coast teams. They had 5 of those early body clock starts in 2017, but that's back when the 49ers were nobodies. The league didn't respect them at all back in 2017. 49ers actually lodged a complaint with the league office. They said, hey, we can't have all these early body clock starts. They even wanted to change one of the NFL's bylaws, and it didn't pass at the owners' meetings, but they said, teams should have no more than 3 early body clock starts per season. It didn't pass. As you can tell, the 49ers have 4 this year, but it's the most they've had since that 2017 season. So this schedule for the 49ers is not an easy one. You have it right here up on the screen. Yeah, I could fit all 18 weeks in there. We can take a closer look at it. I know I broke it down with a 5-minute video earlier, and we'll definitely take questions about the 49ers schedule. We'll discuss this, but we have to talk about a lot of other stuff. I did a show earlier today on the 49ers quarterback situation with Kyle Shanahan talking about Brock Purdy, with Kyle Shanahan talking about Sam Darnold, and with Kyle Shanahan talking about Trey Lance. That was yesterday at the California Theater in San Jose. That was a really fascinating event. Kyle Shanahan, I mean, that was Kyle Shanahan on fire. 32 minutes. We saw Jerry Rice have to leave a little bit early because his car was about to get towed. But Jerry Rice on stage with Christian McCaffrey, that was damn good stuff. And now, I mean, in the midst of all this, we also have this. We also have Rookie Report Day. That happened today. Can't forget about that. You got to check out the channel, by the way. If you haven't, if you're just joining here for the live, there are rookie report videos all up and down the channel right now from Jake Moody. That was a really good one. Darrell Luter Jr., another good one. There's Barrows in the background. You see Barrows standing there in the background on the left? My mouse is hovering over Matt Barrows. Jalen Graham, Purdue linebacker. And of course, the schedule release video where I was able to put the schedule up on the screen. So you could check out all of that. I think I'm going to play a Jake Moody video in a little bit from the availability. But rookies reported today to the 49ers facility. Tomorrow, they're going to practice. I'm going to be on the field during rookie minicamp, and I'll be able to share my observations after that. And before I get on a plane, it's a 2-day event for covering rookie minicamp today and tomorrow. So everything kind of converged at once between the schedule, the rookie minicamp, and of course the Dwight Clark Legacy Series event, which took place at the California Theater yesterday. Wasn't able to watch the Warriors and the Lakers yesterday because of that event. Kyle Shanahan had it recorded. Everybody at the theater was wondering what was going on. Then we saw the Warriors had grabbed a double-digit lead, and everybody kind of breathed easy. Everybody was like, okay, this game probably won't be a nail-biter like the other ones. It wasn't. Tomorrow's going to be a nail-biter, though. And after all, the 49ers work tomorrow, 7 p.m. Pacific, Warriors, Lakers down in L.A., Game 6. So it is a Bay Area sports extravaganza right now. Follow along on Twitter, Lombardi himself. And why don't we just, I think we could start talking about that quarterback situation, because I know I'm discussing it in the title of this. I put together a big thread. I went through this on the earlier video, but it doesn't hurt to take a look at it again. This is the thread of important Kyle Shanahan quotes about his quarterbacks from Dwight Clark Legacy Series action at the California Theater. It's Kyle Shanahan, 49ers QB mania. I'll go through some of the important ones. Brock Purdy, the return so far seems to be on schedule. We'll know more in about a month, but Kyle Shanahan said this: as long as Brock's elbow heals right, he'll be the exact same guy. He's doing the same drills all the other quarterbacks are doing. He's just using a towel to throw, not a football, but a towel, but still doing violent motion, still moving. He's just not doing it with a football. As long as there's not a setback, we think he'll be there at training camp. Wow. Brock Purdy, violent motions with the elbow already. So that definitely gives you a good sign. If he's snapping that elbow back and forth, I guess people might be a little bit sensitive to the word snap because he did snap his elbow when he hurt it against Philadelphia. By the way, 49ers Eagles week 13, December 3rd. What do you think of that? 49ers definitely happy that Purdy has a good chance to be healthy for that football game later in the season. But, the fact that Purdy is back at the physical motions of throwing the football without actually throwing it yet, that is a promising sign here just a couple months after the elbow surgery. So you look at, where the 49ers are with Purdy. You also look at where they are with Trey Lance, and we can scroll down to see the quotes about Trey Lance. 49ers still believe in Trey Lance, folks. And Kyle Shanahan's been consistent with this messaging all off season long. This is nothing. I mean, some people would have you think that this is new messaging because the drama has been so overblown. But if you literally, I'm going to turn off the screenshot for a second. If you literally did not pay attention to 49ers social media for the course of the last 3 to 4 months since the end of the season, whenever that was 3 months ago, if you just turned it off, tuned it out, and you woke up again today and you started looking at the news headlines, you would think that nothing has happened. Nothing out of the ordinary is, broken in a certain direction. You would say, hey, this is exactly what I expected. This is exactly what Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch have been saying. Brock Purdy, obviously leader in the clubhouse because of resume. Trey Lance, obviously a talented player who the 49ers want to see realize that potential because of how much they've invested in him. Two things can be true at once. And then you'd say, oh, hey, I haven't been paying attention in 3 months. They added Sam Darnold. Of course they added Sam Darnold. There's no downside to adding Sam Darnold. Talented guy. Number 3 overall pick. Obviously has struggled in his previous 2 stops, but Kyle Shanahan had shown interest in him before. He needed to insulate the quarterback room, and he did insulate the quarterback room with a very low-risk maneuver to pick up Sam Darnold. Anyway, as far as QB mania goes, here's the quote about Trey Lance. We did expect Trey Lance to be the man, the starting QB, the franchise QB for a long time because of where they drafted him. And I think that he still can be. Oh my God, breaking news. He still can be the man. Kyle Shanahan actually said that about Trey Lance. There's no reason to just, blow smoke for no reason. They actually still think that. You also don't expect the last pick in the draft to come in and play at that level. That's speaking of Brock Purdy. So the 49ers have all these expectations for Trey Lance, and they obviously opened up this whole process with Trey thinking they're going to move on from Jimmy Garoppolo at the end of Jimmy's contract or toward the end of it, maybe with a year left so they could trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Ended up not happening. They ended up re-signing Jimmy to the 1-year deal to keep him around. But the idea was that Trey would take over and Trey would be the guy. In the time since that idea was spawned and now Brock Purdy showed up on the scene. Brock Purdy shocked everybody. Yeah, Kyle Shanahan was adamant to emphasize that Brock Purdy elevated the rest of the 49ers team. This was not just some kind of fluke. The 49ers think actually that Purdy has shown what it takes to be a franchise quarterback over 8 games. A lot of people think that's too small of a sample. I don't think the 49ers are quite saying this guy's a franchise quarterback. If that's what they thought, then his job really would be safe. I think they're genuine. They're honest about the fact that this is going to be a competition, but they're also realistic in saying that, hey, Brock Purdy earned the number 1 role, right? Brock Purdy has delivered more at the NFL level as far as positive, efficient quarterback play goes than Trey Lance or Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold's been in the league a whole lot longer than both Purdy and Trey Lance. So back to here, you have the quote about Trey Lance, and then you have this. This is another double down. from Kyle Shanahan on Trey Lance. I believe Trey would have gotten to a level where he would have done similar stuff to Brock Purdy. He was playing as a top 5 quarterback. I mean, he was leading the league in some statistical categories. Kyle Shanahan thinks that Trey Lance would have gotten there or close to it last year had he not gotten hurt. He missed that opportunity, and Brock came in and did. Brock Purdy did that stuff. But again, Shanahan right here. I truly think that Trey can go in and do that, but Brock's already done it, and it's a very good thing for us to have. So again, this is another dichotomy. Twitter's not ready for this. A lot of YouTube's not ready for this. They pick one quarterback and they, just want to die on that hill. They don't look at it. It's like the NBA now. People are starting to cheer for players instead of teams. So they're going to pick Trey Lance. They're going to pick Sam Darnold. Back in the past, people would pick Jimmy Garoppolo, or obviously they're going to pick Brock Purdy. And that to a lot of people is more important than the fortunes of the team. I'll tell you what, in the front office, they don't care about cheering for individual players. They want to maximize the 49ers' chances of winning. To maximize the 49ers' chances of winning, you A, develop and select the right quarterback that gives you the most efficiency on the field, but B, you also recognize that you're probably going to need more than one quarterback to run any kind of operation with any kind of longevity. Even back in the days of Joe Montana, the 49ers had Steve Young. In the days of Steve Young, after Joe Montana, they had Elvis Gerbach. Hell, we could talk about Colin Kaepernick and Alex Smith. That was a two-headed quarterback system for the 49ers because you need the backup, right? You'd need that. Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick's career as a starter was kicked off by the fact that Alex Smith got hurt. It's just a reality of the game. And obviously, we had Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance in the past, and Brock Purdy splashed onto the scene last year. 49ers used a record amount of quarterbacks last season. This season, they need to be more equipped, and that's why Sam Darnold is in the house. And you speak of Sam Darnold, well, even when asked specifically about Purdy and Lance, Shanahan last night referenced Sam Darnold. We know we have a quarterback who's done it at a high level NFL who we can win with. I also believe that we have two more on our roster. Strongly big for Kyle Shanahan believes that the 49ers have two more, not just Brock Purdy, but Trey Lance and Sam Darnold on top of that. The big thing about Trey Lance is that this is really news to me. We knew he broke his finger against the Raiders. We knew that it was an elongated recovery, but just how elongated, well, it was never really emphasized until now. But Kyle Shanahan said that Trey Lance dealt a whole year with that finger being hurt. We're going to get deeper into this over the course of the next week. Hairline fracture on the pinky, right? Probably the other pinky. That was my left arm. So my right arm. Hairline fracture, could never really bend his pinky anymore to really grab the football. And that created big issues for Trey Lance throwing it. And it makes a whole lot more sense that in the Arizona game, his starting debut, what was it, week 5 of the 2021 season, Trey Lance was running 16 times. Kyle Shanahan didn't really trust him to throw downfield all too much. Some of those errant passes, the lack of a tight spiral. Well, if his pinky is fractured, you could see how it would A, compromise his accuracy, which wasn't good, obviously, and B, compromise Kyle Shanahan's trust in passing plays. So, we have much more of a big picture right now. We have a complete picture of how Trey Lance's development might have slowed down, how it might speed back up now that he's fully healthy because he's coming off the ankle injury, but it was a lot less problematic than the pinky injury. And, we have a picture of how it's going to fit in with the rest of the 49ers quarterback room. You go back to this right now. Take a look at the rest of the 49ers QB room. Talk about Sam Darnold. By the way, Trey Lance, Kyle Shanahan said this about him. He was able to get such a better base the last 2 months. I think Trey's the best we've had him right now. So his throwing base is better. A lot of people were questioning whether or not his release was actually better, even though I think it seemed obvious on some of the throws working with Jeff Christensen. Well, Shanahan has confirmed that the throwing motion, that the mechanics for Trey Lance, which is what he is most needed to improve, he's confirmed that he, in fact, has improved some of those facets of his game. Shanahan thinks that Sam Darnold is a tremendously talented thrower of the football. He doesn't even think that Matt Mayoko's statement that he might be the best thrower of the football the 49ers have ever had is all that controversial. Shanahan sees Sam Darnold talent-wise as the top pick in the draft, or a top pick in the draft, just like he actually was in 2018. You watch his whole career, and there's no reason to think differently. But he hasn't been in the best situations. So we're glad to have him here. That's what Kyle Shanahan said. Now, a lot of people are acting like this is controversial. I don't think it's controversial. I just think it's common sense to suggest that, yeah, maybe Sam Darnold wasn't his best playing for the lowly Jets, followed by the lowly Carolina Panthers. Maybe Sam Darnold has needed a better situation. So let's see how he does with Kyle Shanahan. At the very least, the 49ers have options, and options are what's going to run this show. Kyle Shanahan, right here, summarized things really well. And I'll put this on the screen too. It's at the bottom. Kyle Shanahan said, I do believe we have 3 quarterbacks talent-wise who are all capable of being franchise-like quarterbacks. But that's just capable. Brock's done that in his 8 games. We also have 2 guys on our roster who we strongly believe can do that also. Cool stuff. 49ers are looking at quarterback option power. That is the overarching theme of this offseason. I think that's so clear now after Kyle Shanahan talked yesterday. I mean, so effusively about all 3. He wasn't lying. It was obvious that he wasn't lying. He's sitting there talking to a lot of season ticket holders at the Dwight Clark Legacy Series event. You can't fake your way through that kind of personality. I know Kyle well enough now through 2017. I know when he likes to be tight-lipped in front of the media. Last night's event was not one such thing. It wasn't a media event. I was there. I was invited there, and obviously I'm reporting on some of what was said, but you can tell when Kyle is genuinely excited, and he's genuinely excited about Brock Purdy. I think he's still, genuinely excited about Trey Lance, where that might go. And he's wanted Sam Darnold for a while. They tried to trade for Sam Darnold in 2021 before they picked and traded up to pick Trey Lance. So it's about more than just one QB. Let's put it that way. You need more than one to get through these seasons. The 49ers have more than one right now. And it's going to be fascinating to see how this QB room attacks this schedule. Which quarterback is going to play where? Who's going to be the starter on day 1? When's Brock Purdy going to come back? Does Sam Darnold make a move? Is Trey Lance going to be able to carry his mechanical improvement into the regular season? So many questions, so little time, but there's always time for a 49ers Q&A. So let's pop open these questions and let's talk some 49ers football. Everyone is welcome here. Thanks, Mike. That's awesome. Love the new graphics. Appreciate you. Yeah, trying to be respectful, no drama. There's no reason for drama. I don't need the clicks, so we're fine. I'm just here to talk football. So let's see your questions now. Do you think the Niners would have still drafted Lance if they knew they could get Purdy in the 7th round last season? No, of course they wouldn't have drafted. They wouldn't have spent that much to draft Trey Lance if they knew that somebody as potentially efficient as Brock Purdy could be found in the 7th round. It shocked everybody. That's just the way it works. The draft is a crapshoot. So you maximize your chances by maximizing your picks. And the Trey Lance delay in development, we'll put it that way, it's been covered up so far by the Brock Purdy pick at number 262. Rick Diaz, I think the Niners are going to have a good season. Oh, there's a Chiefs fan in here. Mike says, post your questions. Yeah, that's the schedule on this side of me. I guess that's on the screen. It's my left. It seems like my right when I'm looking. It's all reversed. So what do you think of the schedule, by the way? You can comment what you think of the schedule in the chat section or down in the comment section below if you're watching this a little bit later. Open up at Pittsburgh, then to the Rams. Trips to Cleveland, Minnesota, at Jacksonville, at Seattle, at Philadelphia, at Arizona, at Washington, New Year's Eve in Washington. It's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, I was on the phone with Margot Lombardi herself right before it came live. We were just discussing how we're going to make this season work. When are we going to be where? Which city we're going to go check out. And there's a lot of, at first we were kind of scared. We're like, oh boy, 49ers are playing on Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day. It's only the second time ever that the 49ers have played on Christmas Day. They lost to the Houston Oilers. That was before the Texans. The Houston Oilers back in 1993, 10-7, Christmas Day, 93. Second time ever they're playing on Christmas Day, and I think the sixth time ever they're playing on Thanksgiving. This is the first time ever the 49ers have played both in one season, Thanksgiving and Christmas. We're like, oh, God, this is going to be tough to swing from a family perspective, how we're going to do this. But we figured out a way to make it work, First kind of marriage compromise, I guess, here, less than a weekend. The NFL schedule comes out. That could put a lot of things to the test, but it was all good. Anyway, we looked at the schedule, and over time, it's a lot of travel, but it kind of grew on us. We saw some of these trips, and we're like, oh, that seems fun. I know that Margot's dad has wanted to go to Cleveland. He really likes Cleveland. I never been. He's going to go to Cleveland on October 15th. I love how the Cowboys game lines up with Fleet Week in San Francisco. I do enjoy Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was one of the great American cities back when that steel industry was roaring. You can still tell in the architecture downtown. Talk about Primanti Brothers, talk about steel, you talk about trucking. Primanti Brothers, they made the sandwich where they put the meat, the egg, the coleslaw, and the fries. They just stuff it in the sandwich so that back in the day, the truck drivers needed to drive with one hand and eat with the other. That's a Pittsburgh tradition. But Pittsburgh, you talk about Detroit being one of those great American cities with the automobile industry. Pittsburgh was steel. Obviously, New York with finance came along too. New York's always been the biggest city. But you go to places like Pittsburgh, you go to places like Detroit, and you're like, this is what made America. And I can't. I've been to Pittsburgh once. You've never been to the stadium. So I'm looking forward to going and check it out. All right, we got a question here from Justin. Realistically, looks like Purdy comes back ready to go week 3. I don't know where you got that from, but okay, let's read the rest of the question. If Lance or Sam Darnold show out, do they make the switch? How long would Purdy's leash be? So I don't know where you got the week 3 thing. It could be week 1. It could be as late as week 4. It could be later than that. So right now it's all hypothetical. That's my first answer to your question. The second part, like assuming that the hypothetical, the first part ends up being the case, then I guess, you can entertain the second question. But my policy is, why are we crossing these decision bridges prematurely? Because it's not the decision yet. It's just a hypothetical. You're just going to torture yourself. You're going to go crazy with all these different possibilities. Yeah, if Brock Purdy is out for 3 or 4 weeks and Sam Darnold comes out and, beats out Trey Lance and then is the highest rated quarterback in the NFL for 3 weeks, then you probably don't make the switch right then. But until that's a problem, why make it one? That's the way that I look at it. So I think the 49ers are also looking at it the way I am. They're saying we don't have to make a decision right now. We just have options, and it's better to have options than to not have options. Okay. Computer enthusiast thinks the NFC West is a top division. Well, I think that the Cardinals and the Rams are going to have to carry a little bit more weight for that to be the case this year. Last year was the East. The NFC East was really good. AFC East was good too. Both Easts were really good last season. Everybody thought the AFC West was going to be it last season, but it really wasn't. Although the Super Bowl winner did come from there in Kansas City. K-Dubsville, regular viewers, going to be at the Pittsburgh game. Come and say hi. Option power, words of the day. Yes, sir. Why don't option power? Why don't we open up? Hey, speaking of option power, let's look at Jake Moody here. I have Jake Moody, 49ers kicker. I had a question for him about the tryout that the 49ers put him through. I'm going to retweet it right now. Put it at the top of the Twitter page. Let's watch Jake Moody, see what he's up to for the 49ers. Get this big up on the screen for you. All right, here's my question. And here is Jake Moody's answer. Really? Is the audio really not working? That's really annoying. All right, Mike, if you could send me that video, can you rip that, send it to me, and we'll get it going. I'm sorry. Didn't realize the audio didn't work. Let's get Nigel's question up. Do you think they'll stay back east for between weeks 6 and 7? Well, here we go. Between weeks, yeah, Mike is working on downloading that. We'll get you the Moody video. I didn't realize that it wouldn't work on that first go around. So here you go. Week 6 and 7. That's between Cleveland and Minnesota. I'm not sure because the Minnesota game is actually on Monday night. So if the 49ers do end up staying, then what will happen here is they would have to extend their, it would be a long stay. And they were already growing weary of the stays last year, to put it that way. So, yeah, I'm really not sure. It seemed that they were growing weary of the stays, but they also like the team camaraderie that comes from them. The fact that Minnesota is not till later on Monday, though, might dissuade the 49ers from staying out there, and they might want to come home. Plus, it's a night game, so it's not an early morning start, right? Both a day later. And a lot of the reason that you do the stay over so you don't have to kick off at 10 a.m. Pacific on your body clock. But since you're starting at 5:15, you're good, right? So I would lean toward no. I would lean toward they're probably not going to stay over that week. But we're going to have to get that answer from Kyle Shanahan. Maybe we talk to him at some point here in the coming days to get an idea of whether or not they want to do that. All right, I think we might have, we have Jake Moody here from Mike. So I'm going to download this and get this up on the screen. Good question by Nigel, though. And just let me get Jake Moody open here for you guys, and we'll play the great answer from him today about the tryout that the 49ers put him through. Moody ends up being a good kicker. This tryout might be a part of 49ers lore. Here we go. Said that the 49ers put you through a pretty intense test. I think it was like a 55-yard field goal, laces out, fire drill. Can you describe what that test was like, and how did it compare to maybe some of the tests other teams put you through?
Yeah, so Coach Schneider really wanted me to have an operation, and we couldn't find a snapper that could work for like the little private workout. So we had to use the next best resort, which was one of our tight ends. That was kind of like our emergency long snapper at Michigan. And so, he's a great guy. I love him to death, but he's terrible at snapping. And so he ruled, half the snaps back, and the holder was doing the best he could to, try and get the ball up and down for me. And, like you said, the last one, he said, this is like a game winner. You got to make this one no matter what. And sure enough, the snap bounced, I think, twice before it got to the holder. And thankfully, he got it up at the last second, didn't kick his hand off, and made it.
So Matt Barrows actually had a great article. He interviewed Jim Harbaugh about Jake Moody. I think Jim Harbaugh said you could count on 3 things in life: death, taxes, and Jake Moody. That's up on The Athletic right now. So go and check that one out. A couple more questions. Let's go. A couple more questions. Then it is time to chill. It's not a very active crowd tonight as far as questions. All right, here we go. What team is the biggest challenge of the division for the Niners next season? I think it's Seattle. I mean, Arizona's terrible. The Rams only had a cut frontline players, and they weren't any good last year. Seattle seems to be the rising stock in the division, and they were already the second-place team last year. They have that Seattle sandwich or the Philly sandwich. Seattle, Philly, Seattle, end of November, early December. Happy birthday, man. 21st birthday in 3 hours. I love that. Happy birthday to Valor. Is that your name, Valor? Happy birthday. We won't sing it, but happy birthday to you. Thank you for watching. 3 hours away from your 21st birthday. I mean, there are no easy games in the NFL. There never are. It's the NFL. Unless you're playing the Urban Meyer Jaguars, right? But they're not playing the Urban Meyer Jaguars. They're playing the Doug Peterson Jaguars, the Trent Baalke Doug Peterson Jaguars. My impression of the rookies from the interviews. Oh, that's a good one. Let's get the rookies up on the screen. That way I can be reminded of who I talked to today. It's been a long one. It really has. There you go. Cool. Jalen Graham. Okay, yeah, Jalen Graham. That guy was on top of his stuff. He played the star position, which is like a hybrid DB linebacker position at Purdue. Also played for Jeff Brom, former 49ers quarterback. He was the third stringer, backed up Steve Young, who was the Purdue coach, told Jalen Graham a lot about the 49ers way of doing things back in their dynastic years. I thought that was a really cool connection between past and present. You know, people are saying, hey, D Winters is faster than Jalen Graham. But Jalen Graham, you know, that 4.6, I think he might play quicker than the 4.6. Really good in coverage. Again, the position that he played was a kind of a glorified linebacker position, and that he did play some DB. So look out for both him and D Winters, who we also talked to today. You know, as far as D Winters goes, where's he at? Right there. That's D Winters. He had 7.5 sacks last year, a ton of tackles for loss. And it looks like he's blitzing on his tape. And, you watch the tape and you're like, okay, they're dialing up blitzes. He's a really good blitzer. So I asked him, what's the key there? Is that do they trust you with blitzing because you're good at the film study, the spots, the timing? And he said, you know what, I actually wasn't blitzing. It looked like I was blitzing, but I just have such good instincts that I'm shooting that gap for that tackle for loss or for that sack without a blitz. And that's awesome. And I'm sure that's something the 49ers picked up by talking to the coaching staff at TCU. Remember, they have got a connection to that coaching staff. John Lynch's daughter goes to TCU, and that means that's the school where D Winters is from. It's where Sonny Dykes coaches. So John Lynch has a good relationship with Sonny Dykes. John Lynch makes 3 to 4 campus visits a year, and he's able to see TCU play up close. So I think he probably had some intel on D Winters. He probably knew ahead of us that a lot of those sacks, those are actually ad-libbed. Those are actually the results of a good football player shooting the gap. A lot of those tackles for loss, natural explosive plays. I think the 49ers really appreciated that. Jack Coletto, the jackhammer from Oregon State. I think he's going to have to add a little muscle. I think, Jack Coletto was a little bit, he wasn't quite a big. Jack Coletto here. He wasn't as quite as big as I thought somebody who's going to be starting at fullback, or not starting, but, beginning his career at fullback will be. But this is a guy played short yardage back, played linebacker, played quarterback, came into Oregon State as a quarterback. He's definitely going to have to add some bulk, though, as you can tell here. Kyle Juszczyk, who plays the fullback position for the 49ers right now, definitely a little bit bigger than Jack Coletto, but certainly interesting body type for Coletto. And he picked the 49ers because they're known for their versatility, and he plays like 6 different positions. Braden Willis, I asked the tight end, Braden Willis, if what he runs, because he doesn't run a 40 in the lead up to the draft. He said he ran a 4.6. 4.6, and I talked to his coach today, Joe John Finley, who played for the 49ers. He was a tight end on the practice squad in the late 2000s, 2008 and 2009. So he learned from Vernon Davis. He learned from Delaney Walker. And because he never made the active roster, but because of his exposure to some great tight ends in Vernon Davis and Delaney Walker, he developed a high tight end football IQ. And now he was Braden Willis's position coach at Oklahoma. And Braden Willis, the 49ers R&D department has him as the best yards after the catch tight end, breaking tackles in the entire draft class. And they got him late. They got him toward the end of the draft. Told me that he runs a 4.6. So that's good stuff from Braden Willis. Ronnie Bell played for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan. Ronnie Bell says that Jim Harbaugh would just walk into the weight room from his office. He'd be wearing his khakis, of course, because it's Jim Harbaugh. He'd put some, weight plates on the squat rack. He'd toss up like 10 squats or however many squat reps he'd do in his khakis. And he just walk back to his office and continue the day. So we already knew the Jim Harbaugh squat legends, the Jim Harbaugh khaki legends, but now we know that he squats in his khakis at Michigan. So that makes it even more epic. Ronnie Bell he played for Jim Harbaugh. He's got to have that dog in him. 49ers looking at him as a wide receiver depth and maybe even potentially a returner. You saw Jake Moody, the kicker. Darrell Luter Jr., I mean, he's already married, already has a kid, has a daughter. His maturity is something that was a big selling point for the 49ers. There's a look at Darrell Luter Jr. He had a chance to transfer from South Alabama for his final season. There was money being thrown at him by some SEC schools. Humble guy, though, wanted to finish what he built, and he said, you know what, I'll get drafted next year. I'm just going to stay here. I'm going to stay at this smaller school where I built a little bit of a legacy. And it paid off. 5th-round draft pick of the 49ers. Obviously, I did the schedule analysis from the Field of Levi's, and then you have Jalen Graham, linebacker. Isaiah Winstead, the social media discovery at receiver, also did a piece on him. I'm going to upload that a little bit later on. Make sure you check out the stuff from yesterday. Christian McCaffrey, Jerry Rice, John Taylor were electric together on stage. Those of you who haven't seen it yet, maybe you get a little bit of a preview of it here. There's Jerry Rice on stage before he had to leave because he was double parked and they're about to tow his car. That's part of the video. That was funny too. And obviously had Kyle Shanahan. No London game. That might have been the no London game thing. It might be the only bone that the NFL threw the 49ers. I mean, if they had a London game, their travel would be head and shoulders above everybody else's. As it stands, they're 30,000 miles right behind the Seattle Seahawks. All right, more interviews coming up tomorrow. 49ers, yeah, they split it in half. Rookies between today and tomorrow, and you're going to have on-field footage tomorrow. So tune in then. A lot of good stuff coming. You get to see the rookies practice, and I'll have it here on the channel for the first time tomorrow. Everybody like the video, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. It's been a busy-ass day. It's time to go get some rest. We'll talk to you all very soon.